Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is for those people who have their sun, rising sign, or both in Taurus, and how the transit of Saturn in Aquarius will affect you. So Aquarius is a fixed sign, you're a fixed sign. This is going to affect an angular house, and in this case, it's going to be the 10th house of career. The angular houses are the 1st, the 4th, the 7th, and the 10th, and these are considered to be the houses where there's a lot happening. I remember when I was first learning about this, I was like, really? I mean, it didn't seem to me that they were the most important, as the books, the astrological books, seem to say they were. I was like, what about the second house that Taurus rules? It's about money. How could that not be important? But this is supposed to be where the action is. And of course, with the 10th house of career, we can definitely say that that would be an important house. And Saturn there, I think, is wonderful. It's funny. I'm like looking through this material, and well, I think sometimes people tend to kind of overstate the more challenging aspects and underplay some of the amazing things. I think Saturn in its own house is amazing. And I think that that can indicate that Saturn will function in a very positive, constructive way in the 10th house. Because, Saturn is seen as the lord of karma. It's seen as a planet of restrictions sometimes. And therefore, somebody, having Saturn in the 10th house may say, oh, great, now my career is going to be blocked. Well, no, it doesn't have to be that way at all. The question is, are you true to yourself? Are you living a life where you're doing what you want to do? Because I could see something coming up for people who are not really following their own dreams, but kind of going along with the program. That may put up roadblocks for you where you realize that you just don't have it in yourself to do whatever. Now, an interesting thing is that the 10th house can be the father. I didn't see this mentioned in the material, but I'm kind of skimming it, to be honest with you. So I would imagine that with Saturn in the 10th, just like Saturn in the 4th, that you could have added responsibilities with the father, that you may be caretaking, that he may pose some kind of problem for you in thwarting you in some way, or trying to, or maybe just you're seeing how he did in the past. And this can be turned into something good, because you might realize that you've been trying to please daddy all along, and this can be freeing. I always am, well, I'm not going to say I roll my eyes, but when I hear Saturn is the lord of karma, it just sounds so ominous. When really the word karma means action. It means cause and effect. And that's just how the universe rolls. You do something and something else happens. It's even like in physical laws. The law of physics. You throw a watermelon from a balcony, it splatters on the ground because of gravity. Who in their right mind would say, the universe hates me because the watermelon is just like, just like a liquidy mess on the ground? No, I dropped it though. So the thing is, Saturn wants us to take responsibility about something. And I would say with career matters, if you're not happy doing what you're doing, change it. I think there's a saying like that. If you're not happy with where you are, change what you're doing. Don't just act like a helpless victim. Saturn is pull yourself up by the bootstraps. It's not like an indulgent father. It's a a more, demanding type of a father. But, at the end of the day, the father who spoils you may enable you to continue copping out of life. The father who is more stern may actually spur you on to great accomplishments. And actually, the 10th house is a house of accomplishment. So, this is your reputation in the world. And when Saturn is here, you can crystallize your goals, so you can experience the success that you've been looking for. You can have, you can make a name for yourself. And, people can see you as some kind of an expert in your field. So you have this reputation as a leader, an expert, whatever you want to call it. And if you're doing things that resonate with what your passions are, this can be amazing. But what happens if you're successful, but you feel empty inside? Saturn can get you to kind of really question these things and, create goals in a different area that you feel is more about where you're at. And the other thing, too, is that this can be about, like I said, duty. So we have to be careful because sometimes people accept duty without questioning it. I'm talking especially to you, Sun in Virgos, or Sun in Pisces, or what else? I don't know. I mean, it can be anybody, but those particular signs may have a tendency to do it much more readily. The point being that you may, be in a type of career or like the trajectory of a career. So, for instance, let's say that you're in medical school and you're currently in, what do they call that, residency or, I can't think of the name of it. When you have to train, oh, brain farts, don't you just love them? I think they are called residencies. But anyway, sometimes you have to work 100 hours a week or something like that. I don't know if they still do it. That seems like absolutely nuts and dangerous. But in any case, it's like, working, and it actually can be in any field where you are kind of maybe in that initial stage where you're breaking into the field and you're trying to make a name for yourself. So you're putting in more effort because you know that the results are going to be worth it. Saturn is about the long term. So it's not just about, okay, what can I have to show for it right now? It's about the future. And remember that we're talking about a 28-year cycle. So you're not going to see Saturn in this house again for almost 3 decades. So because of this, you really want to make a splash with career matters. If you happen to be, let's say you happen to be in your late 20s, when maybe you've had your first real job or, what you consider to be a legitimate career versus just working, toiling away, what have you, this can be your big push where you feel like you're putting in the extra elbow grease, if you will, in order to get the ball really rolling. And, if you're following the typical career pattern, the 30s, people in their 30s, that tends to be the time when they are the most, working most diligently to solidify their position and to ascend in their careers. Maybe early 40s too. And then they can enjoy the fruit of their labor. I suppose it's possible if you're kind of maybe in your second Saturn return, or if you are in your, close to the age when people tend to retire in their 60s, and maybe even earlier than that, maybe in your mid to late 50s, where you feel the sense of like, this is as far as I can go. I guess it's not necessarily just in those age groups. It could even be for people who are younger, where it almost feels like it's the end of the road, that this is the limit that you can expect, and that Saturn highlights this in some way. And what it does is it forces you through the universe to look at other paths. And also, if you feel like there's this roadblock put up there and you still try to persist and it stays there, obviously don't give up and just assume, okay, I'm toast, but still to, persevere. But if you find that something just isn't gelling, it might be a way to, or a sign that you need to go into a different area, because Saturn can be your limitations, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, because it can be something that because of the hardship that you're forced to do something else, that it opens up a whole new world for you. So again, it's like they say, no pain, no gain. I don't know if that's true 100%, but I do think that sometimes you have to exert effort in order to get those benefits, and that if you try to do any shortcuts because you just want it to be, gravy right away, that you might find that it's not happening that way. So with Saturn, there is the need to definitely roll up your sleeves and get down to work. Now, we could look at Jupiter as being more of the Santa Claus transits. So I wanted to talk about exactly when Saturn is going to make this transit through your 10th house. Saturn is going to enter Aquarius on March 21st. And then it will be retrograding in May. And I think there are several planets retrograding in May. I know Venus is. So that should be an interesting month, to say the least. And then on July 2nd, still retrograding, Saturn will go back into Capricorn. So it will be going back into the 9th house for you. And that can be a time of reevaluating things connected. If there's something connected with the 9th and 10th houses, especially, for instance, if you are doing any kind of career that involves spiritual matters or publishing, or maybe academia, like university teaching, then that might be, or even, it doesn't even have to be teaching. It might even be, maybe you feel like you have to get another degree or something, who knows, in order to really be on top of your game with your career. So an example would be, you're 23 years old and you've graduated college and you have a job in your field right out of college, and you're doing it, and then you realize, you know what? I think they're giving me the grunt work, and I want to, I'm looking around, and these other people have master's degrees, and they're making a lot more money, and they have a lot more glamorous assignments. So I think I'm going to go back for a year and get my master's or something like that. Now, that will be in that timeline of Saturn, because Saturn's going to be in Aquarius for 3 years. So you might decide to re-enroll in college. So in any case, eventually Saturn does go direct, and this will be on September 29th at 25 degrees of Capricorn, and then starts to gain degrees, goes back into Aquarius on December 18th. So we're talking about almost at the end of the year, or it is at the end of the year, really. And so it goes back into that 10th house on December 18th, and then the very next day Jupiter goes into that to Aquarius. So you have Saturn and Jupiter in conjunction for a few days, but definitely both in the same house, and that is exciting because Jupiter can provide all kinds of lucky breaks for you and growth opportunities, and Saturn can give you that gravitas that you want in your career. So that sounds good. I have Taurus rising, so I'm definitely looking forward to this. And I hope that you enjoyed this, Taurus. If you would like a personal reading, the link to my website, rainamoonastrology.com, is below. Take care. Bye.